Hello, welcome once again to Leto's Law. I'm Steve Leto. I had several people send me a story out of Florida, but this is a problem that happens in a lot of places across America, and it's a major problem there's a slight flaw in how our legal system handles paperwork for the ownership of properties. And once people figure this out, it gets ugly. So they need to fix the problem, and it's illustrated best in a story, like I said, out of Miami. WPLG, which is Local 10, and it's a cool TV station. Very good friend of mine named John used to do a lot of the programming there. He's moved on, but the station is still rocking it in Miami. Amy Viteri, who's an investigative reporter there, said, loophole used in attempt to claim ownership of Miami-Dade County home. And here's what happened. A Miami-Dade resident named Lycian Barber passed away. And when she died, her cousin, Richard Anderson, got to manage the estate, and one of his jobs was to sell her duplex on Northeast 2nd Avenue. Well, it got ugly because he listed it for sale and it sold very quickly. But in the meantime, someone else just moved in, busted in, filed some phony paperwork with the county, and then started telling people, yeah, I own this place. It's mine. Go check the county records. County records show it's mine. Except that it wasn't his. He just filed some fake paperwork. And this is a problem. So Anderson has now said he spent up to $50,000 in legal fees trying to evict a guy who doesn't belong there, whose name is Hensile Dorsey. Hensile. Haven't heard that one before. And so Anderson told Local 10 investigative reporter Amy Viteri, we listed the property and sold it right away until this phantom, Mr. Dorsey, appeared. That's when the problem started. The family learned through neighbors that someone had broken into the property, and it was Hensile Dorsey. He told the neighbors he was the new owner and that he was fixing it up to rent it. Monique Lavender Greenberg, the attorney representing the family, of course, none of that's true. Greenberg said once the home was under contract to sell, they discovered the problem. And they discovered what's called a wild deed. And here's the problem. Some people figured this out, that there are government agencies, court clerks, register of deeds and so on, and you can file stuff. You can just take a piece of paper and take it down and file it. And unfortunately, a lot of these people are like sovereign citizen folks who will just file a fake deed or something with the court. And they'll often do this and say, well, it got filed, it's good. And the Register of Deeds in most places is literally somebody who just takes papers and files them. It's a clerical job. And the fact that they've accepted something for filing doesn't have any legal effect. But the problem is, if they take a deed that's fake and they accept it for filing and it gets filed, when somebody does a title search on that property, they go, oh, wait, there's these conflicting deeds. How do we straighten this out? And the problem is, to get it straightened out, you got to file a legal action and get a judge to order the record to be straightened out. So this wild deed is what they call that. Greenberg explained a wild deed is a fake document claiming ownership of the property. Dorsey filed one with the county recorder in the clerk's office. And in Miami, this is the attorney speaking, this is really scary. I can go and write a deed that says, from myself to myself, that I now own your house. So in other words, most deeds will say, I, homeowner, transfer ownership to you, home buyer, and once you pay me, you now have my home. It's now your home. So you have a chain of title that goes from this person to this person to this person to this person. This guy walked in with a piece of paper that says, I own this house, and I transfer ownership to myself, and gives it to him. And they file it. Probably costs $10, $15. Files a piece of paper. Now, anybody who would look at that would go, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you need to deed it to yourself? If you already own it, you don't need to deed it to anybody. But of course, he can't go in and say it's deeded from somebody else, because then he'd have to sign their name to it, and that'd be forgery. So apparently he's smart enough to know that. So he says, oh, I own it, and I'm deeding it to myself. And when he files that, the Register of Deeds takes and goes, oh, we got a piece of paper here on this piece of property. And they just stick it in that file. But now that it's there, Somebody else who wants to legitimately buy the property from the legitimate owner does a title search and says, oh, wait a second. You claim that you represent the estate that owns it, but there's this guy named Dorsey who says that he owns it because he deeded it to himself. And anybody can look at this and go, this is stupid. But because all they do at the office is they file things, they just take it and they file it. They take it and they file it. Take it and they file it. So records show that Dorsey did, in fact, take a deed and deed the home to himself. And the problem, according to Greenberg, is the burden is then on the homeowner to take legal action to remove that deed before they can sell the house or the property. It's a process that is not easy, cheap, or fast, according to Greenberg. And this is where the legal system needs to look at this and straighten this out. Because it shouldn't be that difficult to look at this and go, wait, a guy who doesn't own the house has deeded it to himself. You should immediately look at that and go, okay, we're going to throw this out. We're going to throw that guy in jail. So Anderson said he just goes as far as he can, hoping that we would back off or probably give him some money to go away. That never happened. Meanwhile, they say Dorsey found a way to break into the vacant home again. So they got him out once, and he broke in again, taking all the real estate agents' lock boxes off the doors. Miami-Dade police responded to the property, and eventually they did arrest the man. Investigators sent Local 10 News several reports saying Dorsey has done the same thing at least at 10 other properties all over Miami-Dade County. If you go on the internet, YouTube, you can find videos, news reports from around the country of people who've gone on vacation and come home, somebody's living in their house. Just broke in, filed some paperwork. You can find stories where people put a house up for sale. They moved out. Someone moved into the house, took down the for sale sign, says, I live here now. It's my house. I filed a quitclaim deed. And there's a bunch of forms you can get. One is, like I said, the deed where you deed it to yourself. One is where you quitclaim it to yourself. There's all kinds of goofy things you can do, but none of them are legal. None of them are legal. But they go, well, I filed it with the clerk. The clerk accepted it for filing. Isn't that something? No. I know courts in Michigan where you can file things, and there's actually a box at the end of the counter next to a timestamp, like a time card machine where it stamps a time on it, and it just says filed. You can take anything you want into that office, ka-chunk it, that's a term of art, ka-chunk it, and drop it in the box. You can say it's filed right now. I filed it, accepted for filing. Doesn't make the piece of paper anything other than what it was in your hands, except now it's got a date stamp on it. Ka-chunk, okay? The ka-chunk doesn't make it legal. Real estate attorney Chelsea Sylvia has also been assisting with the effort to clear the title on this home and pointed out this is a crime. The moment he walks in and records a deed, that is a felony. But the problem is, and this is the quote, there's no gatekeeper. That is a problem because the clerk who accepts things for filing isn't a gatekeeper. A gatekeeper is somebody who oversees the gate and says, yes, this gets in, no, that doesn't get in. Simply opening up the door and saying everything can get in isn't a gatekeeper. So that's a problem. Sylvia said the legal process to remove Dorsey's fraudulent deed can drag on for months as he files appeals to delay the resolution. He's abusing the court system to abuse these victims, she added. The issue is no one with the county is evaluating the phony paperwork before it's officially filed. Okay? You walk in with anything, you can file it. You probably couldn't file a dead cat, but you could file a piece of paper. Okay? Just anything. Okay? No one is required to, and no one at the Miami-Dade clerk's office would grant an interview to Channel 10. But they did point out that the office's role, and this is a quote, is strictly ministerial. It should be clerical. It's a clerical job because ministerial implies that there's a minister who does something, but in the broadest sense, the word minister. But they have no executive authority, and that's correct. In other words, the person doesn't have any authority to do anything other than say, is this a piece of paper? Yes, I will file it. Is this a piece of paper? Yes, I will file it. It's almost robotic or machine-like, and I'm talking about robotic in the sense of just a device that just does something without thinking. I realize there are robots who think. I'm not meaning to insult our robot overlords. I, for one, welcome them. So if a deed comes in with the proper signatures and requirements, the office is required to file it, legitimate or not. And so that means, again, the proper signatures is simply someone signed it. And requirements is probably they paid the fee and it has a property description on it. Beyond that, So this is a county-wide problem with one individual, Sylvia said. He preys on the deceased, the most vulnerable victims there are. I guess. Is there anyone more vulnerable than somebody who's already dead? I don't know. Anderson said, I think he's caused a lot of pain with people. I think he needs to be incarcerated for a good number of years so he learns his lesson. And when they incarcerate him, they should let him file paperwork saying that he owns his cell. Maybe that'll make him feel better. Dorsey does face several felony charges in the criminal case against him. A representative from the clerk's office told the TV station it would require a change in state law to grant them authority to approve or deny deeds before filing them into the official county record. Greenberg said there's currently no way for a homeowner to keep someone from doing this, but she recommends checking the clerk's office paperwork. Some of these are online, and there you can see if anybody's done this to you. And of course, the problem is if they've done it to you, it's going to cost you $50,000 to get straightened out. So, like I said, I've seen this happening all over. I've heard of it in Michigan. I've heard of it in dozens of other states. And anybody who wants to can get the property description, fill out a deed, say they're deeding it themselves, and file it. And now the title history of your property is clouded, and it's going to cost money to get it removed. So there's probably a bunch of ways this could be fixed. But, one of the biggest problems I have with it is someone will come home from vacation and there's someone living in their house. And they'll call the police and they'll go, hey, someone's in my house. And I've actually seen it where the cops show up and they go, oh, it's a civil matter, hire an attorney. Explain to me how breaking and entering, trespassing, and all the other crimes that have been committed are a civil matter. Don't get me wrong, you can sue somebody for those things, but they are crimes. Just because something has a civil parallel component to it doesn't mean the police can go, oh, sue them. If someone breaks into your house, you have to sue them? What? The police don't help you with that? So at least with this guy, the police did arrest him. That's good. But in the other situations I've seen where the police wouldn't get involved, scares me. But again, like I said, the problem really is that the clerk's offices need to be given the discretion to glance at something and see if it's facially absurd. So somebody who's not on the title grants themselves ownership of something they don't own. That's the obvious one. And you say, okay, wait a second. Our records show the property's owned by this person, and right now somebody who doesn't own it claims they're granting ownership of it to themselves. That right there should be one they can just go, no, we're not accepting that for filing. In fact, we're referring this for prosecution. That's what they should do. Okay? But there's other things they could do, but that's the most obvious, simple, low-hanging fruit solution there is. Okay? But again, great story out of Florida. Our buddies over at WPLG doing the investigative reporting, which we appreciate so much. And that story, of course, was done by Amy Viteri, sent to me by several people. Thank you very much. Questions or comments, put them below. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.